The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings, veering back into reality TV today. Now, this isn't necessarily a spoiler of what happens, but we're going to be talking about the rumored The Challenge OG cast, the Mark Long special, as we're going to call it, the next season after the season that's currently going on right now, Double Agents, which maybe we'll talk about at the end. Who knows? Joining me on the line to break all of this down and actually smash the like button to the video and in the comments section, tell me which challenger on the OG cast that isn't there that you would have liked to have seen on this cast, because there's some pretty notable names missing. From NFL Network, Adam Rank, he's here. We never talked to him about football. Only the challenge in movies.
Yeah. So happy about that. That's a huge badge of honor for me because, and I don't want to come off rude, but the NFL gave us the week after the Super Bowl off. Now, obviously you see Good Morning Football still going on and Andrew Siciliano's still doing his thing. I'm checked out. And then people will be like, hey, do you want to come on? I'm like, nope, unless it's the Bears getting a quarterback or it's the challenge. That's the only thing. When Pat reaches out to me, I'm like, okay, clear the schedule. I'm in, and I can't wait to chop it up about this challenge, this OG special.
Yeah, well, I mean, you are an OG of this, so you'll probably remember these guys from like the mid 90s on like I don't know, Real World from.
They're my age bracket. Yeah. This is too close to home. Like, oh yeah, I remember this, like watching these as they were unfolding.
I mean, people may not know this, but I think that you might have been on Real World San Francisco. You might have been the one to replace Puck. I'm not sure about that though.
Yeah, that's been rumored. I have not been on the Real World ever. You know, what's funny is when I was in college, one of my friends, we worked on the school paper, the Daily Titan at Cal State Fullerton. They offered him a spot to be on the Real World. I think would have been in like San Diego or something. No, but one of those. And he just said no. And I'm like, and I was the only one who was like, what? How do you know? Was it Seattle? Well, anyways, I was very disappointed with him that he did not take that opportunity because I would have jumped at the chance, but it's probably for the best that I didn't do it.
I don't know about that. Some of these like mid 90s Real World people ended up doing really well.
Well, Kit's gone on and done well. And, you know, like you see people like The Miz has done amazing. And then Jamie, you know, I was watching The Hangover 2 the other night. So like there's some success stories like outside of like Johnny Bananas, who's continued to make this, you know, a job of his and done very well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to judge myself in that time frame. I don't know how I would have come off. I think that we probably would have come around to the point where I would have been on so long now that people have been like, Rank's cool. But for that early part, I don't know how beloved I would have been.
Well, your NFL Network colleague, Kyle Brandt, was on the same season as Anissa, I think.
Yeah, you know what? And he's never done a challenge. And I've always talked to him like that. Whenever I see Kyle, like that's all I wanted. I feel terrible because I'll bring it up. And I remember when he was launching the Kyle Brandt experience, and, you know, he's like, hey, do you mind, you know, helping out to promote this? I'm like, yeah, no worries. Of course. Like I'm into it. I want to do it. And I made a reference to like, it is the most like, this will be my favorite thing since he did the scary stories at Grant Park and like really frightened a bunch of children. And I don't know if he was amazed or appalled that I remember. And that was the reference that I went with, but I'm like, listen, Kyle, this is what we're going to get. When you're talking to me, this is what we're talking about. I still try to, like, obviously he's kicking ass right now. Like he's one of the top guys at the network. He's top of the depth chart. And I don't know that he would ever go do one of these, but I'm like, dude, you played football. You're athletic. You could probably win some of these challenges.
This is probably the season that he should have been on when we really think about it.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I'm disappointed. Although I know he had the Achilles injury. Now it doesn't seem like too long ago, but it was probably like 5 years ago. But, you know, I think he could go out. I think listen, and if you've not seen him on Instagram, like him and Nate Burleson were working out together, and Kyle is yoked almost to the point that I thought, like, I never wanted to ask him, but he showed up on Instagram and you're like, holy Lord, like he looks like Finn Balor. And, but I didn't want to ask him, but I'm like, is he going to do this? Cause like, I think it'd be kind of cool because, you know, we were talking before the show, like what are the parameters for this season? Is it going to be a hard ass, you know, gauntlet type thing? Or is it going to be kind of like, it's fun and games and there's going to be a cake eating contest? Like, I don't know, but I think Kyle could have done very well.
Yeah, in either format, he probably ends up doing pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
Also, joining us on the line, host of the Challenge Chronicles, which you can go subscribe to on Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify, or just watch on Mayo Media Network, recapping all of the seasons. Plus, there's rewatches of all of the old seasons up there now. He also runs the scoring for the Fantasy Challenge game, and it looks like he just came from a double agent's confessional. It's Rob McIntyre. What's up?
Not much, Pat. I was going to come in and ask Adam who he preferred between Calvin Ridley and Justin Jefferson, but I figured he'd probably rather talk about like Kellyanne and Ruthie and stuff.
So you're the
I will hang up if that happens.
Yeah, we don't want to bog down Rank with too much football talk here, but you compiled this list of who the cast is rumored to be at this point. I think they've all taken off for Argentina. They've done their quarantine. The thing that disappoints me the most are the people that seem to have been left off the cast. Like Abram could have been on this season, but he's not. Why isn't Abram on this cast?
So he was actually dropped right before filming. We're not sure why. I mean, considering COVID circumstances, you never know. And I think his wife has also just got pregnant. So it could have been a variety of circumstances that were actually outside of their control.
All right. Well, the people who got dropped last second, it looks like it's like Abram, Casey, Banana's old fling, Ryan from Fresh Meat 2, I think that's when he came on, Fresh Meat 1. Heather Cook, who we have only ever seen for one season. Kahada didn't end up making the cut. Like, these are all people I'd want to see over some of these names.
Yeah, Casey and Cook were really disappointing. I've always really wanted Cook to come back. And then Casey, I just always liked when she was on. But I think the list they got is pretty good, though. Like, I think we're going to have a pretty good setup here.
So before we dig into this, Rank, is there anyone in particular, like I asked the people to comment in the comment section, that isn't here? Because I think there's one glaring name from the female
There's
side.
one really bad one.
I'm going to go too old school if you're asking me that question, because I would think Puck. Because I just want to see whatever happened to that person, where he is.
I don't think legally he's allowed to be on.
Probably not. What about Aaron from the first LA season, or Dom? One of those guys, like one of those, like, I don't know. Like, I want to go way back. Like, that's one of the charms of having Mark Long on this, is like, it's going way back and it's going old school. And I didn't expect to see Jacinda or somebody like that, but I wouldn't have minded to see Puck or Dom or somebody super old. I don't know. That's me.
Rob, I feel...
So for me, I think Coral is the runaway number one. Not why is she not on the cast? I mean, you never know, but she's definitely the one sticking out to me as why is she not here?
Yeah, that was going to be my hand. I just assumed she didn't want to do it.
She was actually supposed to be on Dirty 30, but apparently they had some pay dispute and she didn't end up being gone.
Yeah, I think that if she came on, then you would have to have The Miz on, who I know that he's, very busy being a WWE superstar, but yeah, would have loved to have seen that. I think Coral was a good one. She's such a mainstay, and she was so good for so long that you would have loved to have seen her get an opportunity here. I also find it weird. Are we talking about who's going to be on? Because I find it weird that there's people who are competing on challenges right now who are now part of this. And I told Pat, this is very Phil Mickelson competing in the Champions Tour. Like, dude, like, come on. Like, I get what I get that you're allowed to do it, but is it the spirit of the game for you to do it? But
all right, so the female cast for this season. Go ahead, my show. Thanks, Rob. The female cast for this season, this time around, Kellyanne from Real World Sydney. We may remember, a former Kahada fling, a former West fling, just one of our favorite characters, Kellyanne. Anissa, who's currently on this season, is going to be on this OG season. Katie Doyle's back, which is just fantastic. We have Trishelle and Arissa from Real World Las Vegas, the first Las Vegas. Ruthie's going to be on the season. Jemmy's going to be on the season. Kendall Shepard from Road Rules Campus Crawl. John A. from Real World Cancun. Gisela from Road Rules The Quest. And Rank, I think the queen villain of the challenge in history, Beth from season 2 of the Real World Los Angeles. I think she's like 60 years old.
She's got to be. Like, I was a kid when she was on the Real World. Like, I was like first watching this show, and it's good. Like, I don't know. I kind of want to see what she's up to. I kind of want to see, is she mellowed? Is she still going to be whatever challenge it is, she's the first one thrown in. Like, there's you're automatically going in. I applaud her for going out and doing this because, it's cool. Like, I want to see what's going on. But you know that the first challenge, unless you have won immunity or something, you're going in. You're going in first round. You're the first woman nominated. But I applaud her for still coming out and doing it.
Well, I always wonder with Beth, like, there's so many people that don't want to go against her in an elimination that sometimes she can skate by. Like, Rod, there's been a ton of seasons where she just ends up quitting, isn't it?
There's been two, basically. Gauntlet 2, she refuses to participate in the elimination because she doesn't believe in oiling herself before wrestling Anissa. And then Inferno 2, she quits because Tanya throws all of her clothes in the pool. But like, people were making jokes about her being old when it was the duel, and that was season 13, and we're wrapping up season 36 now. So
that's crazy. But didn't she beat like Ruthie one time, right? Like she has a pretty, like she had a pretty like a pretty shocking win. So maybe I'm overstepping myself, but I just feel like with her personality, people are still going to want to get her out, and they'll still go back to the thing about her, you know, advanced age, because she's got to be, if she's not 50, she's got to be pretty close.
You would think it's either her or Mark Long that are the oldest ones on the cast. That's another question though, just like what's the format going to be in terms of, is it individuals, pairs, teams? I was kind of hoping it was bigger teams, but just because it's 11 women and 11 men, I don't think it's going to be teams then. I think I guess it could be a battle of the sexes, which I would not want, but I think it's probably just individuals. And in that case, like, people might just not want to go in against Beth.
Who do we think is the favorite from this? Because it's funny to watch like the current season where whoever Anissa's partnered with, you know that person's not going to win in the final. But I think in this format, Rank, Anissa's probably the favorite. Her, Kellyanne?
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things that I almost don't want her to win because it's such a to-do about her not winning on the regular challenge or the original, whatever you want to say, that I don't want it. I don't want her first win to come on this, but when you're looking at the competitors, she stands out because she's still active and she's still in that mindset. Like Katie won the Inferno and you're like, okay, like she could be really good. Kendall, you know, like people who have had great performances over years past, but when you're out of the game, like I think that you can slip a little bit. Like that's one of the, like Ruthie's another one that's very interesting to me. Obviously somebody who goes out and dominates in daily challenges, but can't win the eliminations. But again, with Anissa still being in the mix of it right now and doing well, like she eliminated Tori just a couple of weeks ago. She eliminated somebody else the other night. And I just think that having been in it and having that competitive edge, I think she has to walk into this thing as the favorite.
I mean, Katie did win a season. She also won an elimination that year by smoking a cigarette on a treadmill.
Yeah, that's
with
cool.
The itching powder. Well, what is this final even gonna be?
Who knows?
Like, if it's just, it could be like Gauntlet 2, where they have to like gamble random coins or something, and then, you know, God knows who wins.
Well, I mean, that was, I think, a product of like a hurricane coming through, and that's what they had to like compromise with in terms of a final. I'm just really hoping that they don't take this too seriously. I would prefer it look like more of a challenge from 15 years ago than a challenge that we see right now. Like, I don't need to see geriatric Beth trying to like climb up a mountain over 2 days and like having to stand on a log for 24 straight hours. Like, I don't need to see that.
I think I think half of them would just quit at that point, right? If they're like off the side of cars going 50 miles per hour down the road. I also don't think they have the budget for that. I think part of the reason they're doing this is because it's much cheaper than the real show.
Maybe. Rank, what do you remember about, like, I don't remember anything about Arissa whatsoever. Do you?
Oh, I love, Arissa has one of the funniest moments on the history of the challenge when there was a challenge right towards the end of Battle of the Sexes 2, where they're like on top of a truck that's going around doing laps, and they have to do an obstacle course while on top of the truck. And she is on a team with Ruthie and Coral, and Ruthie and Coral dust it. They do it in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And Arissa is like a disaster. She's like on the balance beam falling off. She's wearing a helmet that's like 7 sizes too big. She's just cursing constantly. And then it takes her like 40 minutes, and she completes it and is like just passed out lying on the floor as Carl's like, you could have done better, Arissa, while the rest of her team is disappointed in her performance.
Very true. She does make the finals, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she does.
I was always kind of a fan because I love that season of The Real World. And I always remember her one night just walking into Steven's room, just like randomly, like she wakes him up for a booty call or whatever. And Steven turns her down. And I remember being enraged at that point. I'm like, what is happening? Why? But yeah, I think that it'll be I think for a lot of these cast members, I'm curious. I'm almost more curious, like what they're up to now. Like, oh, like not obviously I'm going to go look up their Instagram or see what's ever. And you see like Kendall or somebody who's got like 3 kids. You're like, oh, okay, things have changed now. So I'm curious to see where they are in life. Like who's going to be, somewhat in still, competitive shape or anything like that, what we're going to see out of her. But I always liked her. I always thought she was a good personality. I thought she was like an underrated. I think she only did 1 season. I can remember just doing, I don't remember if she did multiple seasons, but I remember her mostly from her Real World season. So that should tell you how much she stood out in the challenge.
Well, if we're going to stick with the Las Vegas cast from that year, like it seems like Trishelle has just been kind of around for the past 20 years, but I'm not really sure wasn't she a pro poker player at one point?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was it. I don't want to get into it too much, but because like you would see her in Las Vegas, like still hanging out. And I think part of it was because she was in poker and she's taken on, so many different challenges, trying to do so many different things that, I don't know. She's one of those people that you kind of lost track of. And I'm curious because like the last time I think that she was on, she was in a dalliance with the Miz, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no, she was on Rivals too.
That's right. Oh, that's right.
When she was Sarah's partner and quit because she like had a production issue.
That's right.
Didn't she like get into a fight with Anissa and then she ended up quitting?
She also got into a fight with Anissa. Anissa like stiff armed her, and then apparently she like broke her, like she cut her foot on some glass in the pool, which wasn't aired, and then she like got into a feud of production and left. And then that's like 3 out of 4 seasons or something where Sarah's partner's been DQ'd.
All right, let's go to the male cast. So Mark Long put this stuff together, it seems. He's the one who, at least on social media, rallied around it to get it done. So he's on the cast. Alton's on the cast. Darrell, who's still on this season, on the cast. Big Easy, who I can't say I'm super pumped to see. Tech from Real World Hawaii. Latarian from Road Rules Maximum Velocity. Derek Kaczynski, our guy. Nehemiah, Yes Duffy, Cyrus, and Ace Emerson. I am actually quite happy to be seeing Ace. I love Ace. But Rank, like, this is besides Big Easy, this is like a legit old school male cast. Like, there's no John A's or Jemmys or Kellyanne's into this mix besides Big Easy. It's all like old competitors.
Yeah, they mixed in a bunch of 30-year-old females who are still willing to come out and do this stuff. But for the guys, this is a legitimate one. And I think Darrell might be the better example of the Phil Mickelson of like, this guy is still a competition beast. We haven't quite seen it in Iceland quite yet, but still somebody who's very competitive. But these are some blasts from the past and guys who have done very well in this competition. When you're trying to figure out, who is going to be, like, you have the clowns, like you've got Tech and Eric and those guys. And you're like, okay, whatever. And even though we like, Yes, like I'm trying to like, Yes hasn't been around in 20 years. Like he was early competitive. I remember he was the first one who wanted to jump off the stratosphere in that season. That was the year. That was the year that Tech disappeared. Like it got too windy and Tech disappeared. And I'm like, that would have been my move. Like I'm not jumping off the stratosphere. So I like to see those guys, but there's some legit. And I think Derek, when you look at these guys, like somebody who Derek probably has the most wins, like the daily wins of all these guys. He's got the finals. He's got the championships. I think like that's a guy right now who can still go out and bring it. Like if he was on the current season of the challenge, he would probably be doing real well right now.
Yeah, Darrell and Derek. I think Darrell has 4 wins. Derek has 3 wins, if we don't include like Champs versus Stars. But like Alton's up there too. I don't know what sort of shape that he's going to be in. We know that Mark Long is just looking for an excuse to oil up his chest and take his shirt off because the man looks... He's like an Adonis for being like 53 years old. I don't quite understand how he can continue to be in this shape over and over. But like, how is Latarian going to do here, Rob?
I don't know. I don't think we've seen him. He hasn't been on since the Gauntlet, I want to say. Like it's been a really long time for a lot of these people, but he wasn't anybody that even had like I actually tried looking him up a little bit before, but I couldn't find anything on him. So I have no clue. Maybe he'll show up and he's looking like Darrell or something, and he should be like one of the 4 favorites.
Well,
I was interested in Cyrus. I'm like, what's he up to? And so I found him on Instagram. Recent photo, he looks like he's in shape. He was in Venice, like hanging out. You're like, okay, like he's not going to come out and look like Ruben Studdard or something like that. Like he's a slim man. You're like, okay, cool. Like I really enjoyed him when he was on Real World Boston. So I'm curious to see again, like how serious these guys are taking it. And if it's one of those things where it's not going to be overly athletic, that's going to favor some of these guys that we know are in shape. Cause like Pat's so right about Mark Long. And I don't know if it's because Kit does so well. Like Kit's been crushing it for forever. Like she's been on TV. She's done some pretty high profile stuff. And you know that every time Mark Long is in public, you're like, hey, what's up with Kit? Like he's got to hear that all like, geez, like going back to like Super Bowl 37, I saw him on media day doing something. And of course, like an idiot, I'm like, what's up with Kit, dog? And I'm like, I just realized you probably get asked that question so much. You can completely ignore me. Please do not give me the time of day. But he was super nice. Like he was super cool. So I'm kind of rooting for him, and I'm glad that he put this together. I think this is all a cool thing.
Rob, how is he allowed to?
Weird he's on the main cast.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, how can he compete in this? Isn't he like making the rules for this?
He was like coming up with, it wasn't even just the cast. He was coming up with like the format and stuff. And then he still, so I'm curious as to how involved he was in the production process. I thought he was going to be like the host or like an executive producer on the show. I didn't think he was going to be on the main cast.
Well, it seems
like he should be the TJ of this.
But I think,
he should have Johnny Mosley back in as the host.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
We don't need...
Mark Long. I was surprised he's not just executive producing.
No. We don't need Johnny Mosley anywhere near this.
We definitely need Johnny Mosley.
We should have Akbar do it so he could replace him on this like he did on American Ninja Warrior.
Johnny Mosley was on American Ninja Warrior?
He was the guy. He was the guy that Akbar replaced.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, I need to go back and watch this.
Oh my god.
Bro, that was always one of my jokes. I'm like, because I would always ask, Akbar and I obviously friends. I'm like, does Johnny Mosley hate you? Like one of the first questions I asked him, or no, he joined American Ninja Warrior after he joined Fantasy Live. But yeah, I did ask him that, and he's like, yeah, I don't talk to that guy. And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Johnny Mosley is the king of. He probably has one of the most vivid challenge memories I can remember, just hosting that Rivals 2 reunion when everything went off the rails. I thought CT was going to beat him up live on air. It was not great for Johnny Mosley. I don't know if we ever saw him again. He hosted an after show at one point. It may have been that season too. But
that was a mess too.
But it was just jump cuts the entire time. Like, it's like he couldn't deliver his lines all in one sentence. So they were like Frankensteining like clips together. The jump cuts were all over the place. It seemed to make no sense. It was truly bizarre. But we got TJ Lavin hosting this. And as we found out from this week's episode of The Challenge, that his name is Thomas Joseph Lavin, not Thomas James or Lavin. Like, I forget who it was who thought it was in the True or False Trivia Challenge. Maybe we'll talk about that in a bit here. Ace Emerson from CT's season of The Real World Paris. Underrated, terrible challenge competitor. Great personality.
Yeah. Oh, he was bad.
Was it the Gauntlet 2 where they were trying to push the truck, but he left the parking brake on the entire time?
Yeah, that's like a top 4 mission of all time, maybe, because that's also the one where they have to like roll a boulder of like wood they put together, and the veterans team boulder just breaks halfway through the mission. Yeah. And somehow Timmy and Mark Long have like the presence of mind to just be like, look, pick up the pieces and run across the finish line. And then they get to their truck, and then Ace just forgets to take the parking brake off.
I think that's also the challenge where Cyrus said that he should be driving because he has valet parking experience.
I mean, it's better than Ace probably.
That's like Kyle trying to slide in and not. Wasn't it Kyle last season who was trying to do the stunt driving and he misses everything?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, him and Nelson. Yeah, that was a weird mission.
And he was like, "Oh, my dad's a stunt driver. I got this," and then just completely whiffs.
I guess the one name from the male cast that we're missing is Timmy, right? Like I know that he got banged up, but Rob, let me talk, all right? Can I finish? Jesus Christ, Rob.
I apologize.
Come on, man. Just soak it in for a second. Timmy's producing Ryan's Mystery Playdate, so I think he's just got too many bucks off that.
Stop it. Is he really?
Yeah, I mean, I see the name Timmy Beggy in the credits when my kids watch it, so I think that's what he's up to.
And wasn't he, like, his final challenge, the one when he retires, was the breaking the glass thing? Was that him?
Yes.
And he broke the pins in the wrong order because he eliminated one of the heavyweights. If I'm not mistaken, it was Wes or somebody like that. but he eliminated some like big name, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, you broke the wrong pane." I'm like, that is the most garbage thing I've ever seen. And of course, Timmy's not going to make a big to-do about it. You're like, you know what? It's the rules. I'm retiring. You're like, I'm still upset about that to this day.
Well, it was him versus Abram, and then
that's right. Yeah,
somehow he broke the glass pane off, but it didn't break when it hit the ground. Like, I don't know how.
It broke, but it was something about like it was the wrong order. Like you had to break some other glass first.
So he very much got screwed on that elimination. I think that was as much a production error as it was Timmy's fault.
It was just such a thing because that's right. I'm sorry they forgot it was Abram, but it was such a thing. Like it was supposed to be such a layup. Like there was no chance, and Timmy just came out like a house of fire, just throwing fists. And I remember, and I still like to this day, I still get nervous like for whatever reason, like watching the eliminations. I think what it is I always hate when somebody's ganged up on, like when Teresa sucks, but like I don't like when
Teresa does not suck. I love Teresa.
All right, good. I was trying to curry favor with you. I didn't know how you.
Oh no, see, I am all in on Teresa.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Teresa should be on this season.
Yeah, I do like her, and I knew she was gonna lose because Casey's a great athlete, but you're like, damn it, like I can't watch it whenever they gang up on somebody like that. And I remember Timmy's elimination. I'm like, dude, go out there and smash it. And for him to win and then get a DQ was the most garbage thing that I can remember. They're probably not, but whatever. That's my hyperbole. That's my spiel.
Rob, who would you add to this male cast? Like, why do we have Big Easy here? I don't get it.
I guess it's like a jokey figure. Maybe I'm just hoping he's one of the first 2 or 3 gone. I think Timmy is definitely the one that I'm missing the most. Like I would most want to see him on. You have guys like the Miz or Theo Vaughn that they probably just have too much going on where they're not going to come on this. I think Brad is actually somebody who's kind of missing from this. Like he had a pretty good track record on the show. He's even been on recently enough with Final Reckoning where like, he can be on TV and be entertaining, but it's also not like Darrell where he's on this season. It's just an overlap.
I could see that. So yeah, even Brad and or Tori to the female cast, I'm kind of surprised aren't there. Rank, are you glad that they didn't invite like Wes or Bananas or CT to be involved in this?
A little bit. I know we talked about it briefly when we were exchanging messages. It would have been kind of cool just to see where they stack up. But those guys, again, are still like Bananas just won his 7th 2 seasons ago. CT's still out there doing his thing, although it seems like he should be moving on to the Champions Tour now because I don't know how much game he still has left, even though he's still going to be like Darrell still looks like he can play and he's going to win challenges. CT, I know that he was saying that he lost to Kyle. Like I wasn't really trying. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like you can only ride this dad bod thing for so long. Like this is almost where you belong, but Wes would have been too good. Bananas would have been too good. Brad is interesting because I thought about him too, but I still think that he's still too close to the game. Even though he was what Real World San Diego?
Yeah,
the first San Diego.
San Diego. Like that's kind of a long time ago. Like that's a sizable enough gap that I think that he could have gone into this challenge, like you said, Rob and Ben. Yeah, it wouldn't have stood out too much, but still, it would have been fun. I think he's a good competitor.
I think that was the Jamie Chung season as well. It also had Carmen.
100%.
Carmen from Southern Charm was on it as well, though she quit Southern Charm this year, so she wasn't on.
Oh.
Let's talk about double agents for a second then. I think we're done with the OG cast here. I'm excited for the season to start. You hit on CT. I think CT Rank is playing possum here.
I think he's looking pretty good.
I don't know. I see some of these. I think that what his game is, with the power game and everything like that, I think that at some point that passes you by. And when you have guys like Fessy, although Fessy disappointed me a little bit in Hall Brawl, because like for a guy who played football, you're lowering your head way too much. Like, why are you not going knees and elbows and running over Nelson or something like that? But I think that when you're that kind of competitor, that's where the age starts to play a factor. And I know that he's not even 40 yet, but it still starts to catch up to you when you have these younger guys. And so I don't know, maybe I'm projecting my own failings onto CT. Like I'm sitting there like, I don't know, man. Like I woke up this morning from playing golf. Like I'm sore. I can't get out of bed. So I can't imagine still going out there and competing in these challenges. So I don't know. Maybe he could prove me wrong. I'm rooting for him. You know, anytime we have an old school guy like that, but it is interesting. And I'm curious to see, and I'm assuming if I can just say this, number one, having to compete for the skulls has been the greatest twist. I'm so happy that they did this. So now all these people have to go out there and you have to go face an elimination, as you should. Although these guys are still scared to go do it. Like nobody wants to go out there and compete still. Like you have to win one of these things, but you still don't want to go down there and do it. Like, which just surprises me. I'm assuming that if Josh goes out there and he competes and he's going up against CT and CT beats him, Josh is eliminated, right? It's not like you lose your skull and you stay in the game.
Oh, I don't think it's like an extra life or anything. I would be very skeptical. They would just take too long to get through everybody then at that point too. The big variable for me, I think, is to steal the skull, do you have to beat somebody with the skull, or can you beat anybody and then just pick a skull like on the island to take?
Ooh. I hadn't thought about that.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. They can't do that. That seems ridiculous.
That's too mean.
Why is that more ridiculous than like half the stuff they do?
I don't. Could you imagine? Well, if you think about it, okay, let's say that happened. Let's say Fessy went down and he went up against CT. And then one of them, like Fessy could be like, well, I'm going to lay down and let you win and then just go take Kyle's skull. Like that's
no, I'm saying like let's say CT goes into elimination next week against Nam and beats him. Then he can say, all right, Fessy, you have a gold skull. I'm stealing the skull. Let me take your skull. Fessy's still around, so he has to go back and do elimination, but he now doesn't have a skull.
Oh, I like that.
I would think that's what they do. The only other thing I could see them doing is like you have to beat somebody with a skull, in which case Josh better be packing his bag.
Him and Devin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then or I mean, it depends on who ends up going in, I suppose. But there could be the thing where you have Josh especially, because you kind of want Josh to be in the final with you, presumably, because he's probably not going to win. And then Fessy and Leroy are too hard of outs. Kyle might find himself into the worst position here from the guy's side because he's sort of in between. Like Devin and Kyle seem like the two targets that, hey, you know, they could win a final, potentially. Like they're not abject failures when it comes down to it, but they're probably also not the most difficult outs from the male side in an elimination either. Like if it's a physical challenge, pick on Devin. If it's like a puzzle, pick on Kyle.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that could actually, and that probably works into Devin's favor too. And I'm sure that, you know, obviously this has been recorded already, but that was probably Devin's selling point of like, you want me in the final because I'm not a long distance runner. And I'd be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Let's get rid of Fessy.
Well, Devin's commitment to always having a cigarette in his hand is just very impressive to me because they go out of their way to try to edit out anyone smoking. But I think him and CT have been like become pals because they're just always outside smoking together.
100%.
Him and Josh this season has just been like the two 5-year-olds in first grade who are just know how to, well, one knows how to push the other one's buttons and just does not stop.
I can't figure out if I like Josh or hate Josh, but I think he's fantastic for the show.
He's been one of those guys, and I'm a Big Brother person, and I warmed up to him because of the way that he not screwed over Paul, but his final speech to get the win over Paul, where he convinced the jury, like, I was pretending to be terrible so that you guys would take me to the final, and it's actually my scheme. And there might be some truth to that. But then when he came to anytime these guys come to the challenge, I always have a background of knowing these guys from Big Brother. So I sort of pull for him a little bit. And then he's annoyed me, and then he swings me back. But I'm now annoyed with him. I just can't. I want to like him, but I just can't.
How nuts is it that going back to War of the Worlds 1 with that rookie cast, that it seems like Josh is going to be the only one who's hanging around?
Oh, I know. Of all the Big Brother, it just seems crazy. And he's won Big Brother. Like, that is the thing too. Like I don't know. That would always, I don't think I guess he early on, he did that a lot. Like, I won Big Brother. And I think they shut him down with that, but I think that got old after a while, but it's like, I don't know. I do like that they brought them in. I do like that element of it, because they're such liars and schemers, and only Casey's the one to me who comes off as like, oh, okay. Like there's a likable Big Brother person still.
Well, I really like the comparison between how they have these different shows now, and you can see how like a Big Brother or a Survivor person approaches the show versus somebody who's on British TV versus somebody who's on X on the Beach. I like having that just comparison of the different archetypes of competitors that we have now, just how they approach a reality TV show.
100%.
How come we're not mining Are You the One anymore for that? I guess Amber, one of the Ambers is from Are You the One this time around.
Amber Am, yeah.
But like we've had some good Are You the One people over the years that have been somewhat long lasting. Like we had Hunter and Nelson and Tori and other people who I can't remember at this point. But I don't know, it seems like they've been better than, I don't know, even the Big Brother people who are, I guess Fessy's all right, Casey's all right, but most of them are just kind of flamed out.
Well, I think with Are You the One now, since the show has so much of a lower profile than like Big Brother or Survivor do, you have to be like the cream of the crop to get on the challenge. You have to be Cam, you have to be Tori, you have to be Hunter, you have to be Nelson. Devin, also Are You the One? You have to be somebody who's really like bringing the fire when you come on. You can't come on and show up and just have, give 2 confessionals in an episode and never drive a storyline.
Very true. And Tori, by the way, I feel so bad for Tori because she's the one. Is she the one? She's always the one every season who immediately wants to go in there and earn her skull. And then she gets eliminated every time. You're like, come on. Or at least it's happened the last 2 times. It's like, I feel so bad. Like, come on. Like, you got it. And she's such a good competitor that it doesn't make sense that she keeps getting eliminated. But here we are.
Well, I think she needs to be like in a pair season and with somebody who has a little bit more like veteran's guile. Like, I think if she was paired with like a West type on a season, I think she needs somebody, for one, who just has like a really high challenge IQ in terms of knowing like pattern recognition and how these games work, but then also like allows her to pick her spots a little bit more and isn't so aggressive.
CT, I think, is doing it the right way this year, because until they actually freeze people out for not having a skull, why would you throw yourself in early? Why not just wait till the end and get, I don't know, to go up against whoever? If you know that they're not going to leave you out of the final because you never had a chance to get your skull, until we actually see that happen, you might as well just stay on the show for as long as possible.
Yeah, I think they also like getting paid. So I think that's probably a thing too. I understand. Like, it's always weird to me. Like, I think that you would want to go to, I would probably the first couple times be not an idiot, but like, I would be like Tori, like, I want to go get it. Like, I just want to get out of the way, go get my skull, and I'll sit back and just relax and do whatever. But I think that you're absolutely right. Like CT and these guys, even Darrell, probably doing it the right way of like, until there's a Royal Rumble, until TJ says this is the final battle and you'll never have a skull, or if you don't get an opportunity now. I think that the only way that you could change that is if once they got those 5 skulls all spoken for, if they would have kicked those guys out, like that would have changed the dynamic going into next season, because they would have seen like, oh my God, if I don't get one of these immediately, I might not ever get a chance, and I might get axed before I even get a chance to compete.
Yeah, I think that's the way you have to play it, actually, just to wait it out. Because now you see if there's only 5 skulls, now either A, you have to be called into elimination, which you don't want. Like, somebody's going to try to take your skull, and then getting it early allows you to be a target and then have to go in twice. Or you can also just have it taken from you without even getting a chance to go in. Like CT beats Nam and then takes Fessy's skull, and now Fessy has to go back in again because he got it too early.
Yeah, I suppose so. If you're a strong competitor, I think getting it early does make a lot of sense, because Fessy has his, no one really wants to go up against Fessy and call him in, and maybe you can try to stick him with his Nisa for as long as possible and just try to freeze him out that way, and that way you can allow him not to switch teams. How do you think that the final ends up working? Do you think it's going to be individuals? Is it going to be the pairs that they're in at the time? Do you think these switch pairs? Because I just can't figure it out.
Yeah, I think at some point that TJ is just going to say that you're all on your own. And I think that's because I think they want to reward, not necessarily Fessy, but people who are saddled with somebody like, of course, like he's always had to compete with somebody who's been struggling at some, not that Anissa's been terrible, but that kind of situation where they want to give them an opportunity to go out there and compete for it themselves. And I think that eventually it just comes down to, I honestly believe it'll probably end up just being one person. I know last year, there was some controversy whether it was supposed to be one person, and then they decided at the last moment that it was going to be 2. But I think they'll come out and say, this is going to be one person who's taking it all. I don't think it's going to be a situation where you can screw over your partner or anything like that, because I think they've played that out now. But I think it's just going to be one person ends up taking the total prize.
I hope not. I would prefer to see them play in pairs. I really would. And just not screw it up. Too. Just like, let's go with this. Here's your pair. It's now the 2 of you.
I think the pairs just much more interesting, especially when you get in a final, because then you get like the controversy of the pairs talking to each other, and like you know somebody's lagging behind, or who works the best with their partner becomes more into play. Whereas if you only have individuals running a final, you depend a lot on confessionals, and you have so many people to jump around between then. Because if we have 5 pairs in a final, okay, we'll see how each of the 5 pairs is doing. Whereas if we have 10 individuals, now the camera's hopping all over the place. We have like no clue what's going on.
That's a good point. All right, I stand corrected. And it also because they do make such a to-do about like, hey, you can switch your partner, you can infiltrate somebody else. I think that probably emphasizing that a lot probably means that, so I'm probably wrong. So I'm talking out of my butt. So I apologize. Oh, listen, I can come up here and admit when I'm wrong. I listen to your guys' argument and I'm like, oh yeah, like that makes way more sense. I apologize. So anybody who heard me talk previously for that 30 seconds, I apologize for you having to sit through that.
On the female side, who do we think is the front runner right now? Is it Cam? Is it Casey? Because it doesn't seem like she's going to be going back in. She can kind of skate to the finals. And are they trying to actively box out Lolo so she doesn't make a final?
I'm not that worried about Lolo if I'm down.
Yeah, that's what you said before the year. Then you made bets with me and you lost them already.
What's she done so far that's been so impressive?
I mean, she's Lolo Jones. She looks like she's barely trying, and people are afraid of her.
I wouldn't be. I think whoever her partner is going to be so annoyed with her, well, by the time they get to the final, if it is in Paris, they're just going to like lay down at the start and are going to refuse to participate so she can't win.
Yeah, she seems every reality TV show that she does, and whether it's Celebrity Big Brother or anything like that, or even the first time that she ever did a challenge where it was the celebrity version, she just always comes off unlikable. And at some point you're just going to be like, well, maybe she is a problem. Like you can't blame editing or anything like that year after year. Like that's just the way she is. And Nam seems like the nicest person in the world. And he's constantly annoyed with her and he's trying his best. And he seems like a pretty good athlete. He seems pretty smart, got a lot of things working for him. So when I look at the female side, obviously to me, like Cam's in such a great spot because you don't want to throw her in there. You don't want to throw her in there and go against her in elimination. If you need to win a skull from somebody who already has one, Cam is probably not who you want to pick. Casey would be the other one, but she's too money. Unless there's some situation where, and if I'm out there, if I was, one of these schemers still available, I'd be like, let's try to get Casey and Cam to go against each other in one of these eliminations, because otherwise these two are going to be a problem.
Well, Rob, I'm looking at the bets that we made from the preseason of the challenge.
This is not good for me.
You've lost them both already. Lolo outlasted Natalie, and CT outlasted Wes. So fantastic news for me.
I got very screwed on that Natalie bet. That was not what the situation I was expecting for her to leave the show, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, the one thing you do win every year is excuses for when you're wrong. So congratulations on that.
That's not fair. That's got to be a special circumstance.
No,
you can't hold that. You can't hold that against him.
I am holding.
Did we actually make that bet? I thought I made that bet with Devin. I didn't think I made that bet with you.
No, you made that bet with me as well.
What was the other one?
CT versus Wes and Natalie versus Lolo.
Oh yeah. The West one, I think I was drawing pretty dead after episode 1.
Yeah, so. I really like you. I like your method of. I don't even think we made that bet. No, that's a good play. That's a Tim Ambercast type play.
I made Natalie versus Lola bets with everybody, I guess, which is not good for my bank account.
Do you think we'll see Natalie again?
I hope so. She said she really liked the show. I think she'll be back on again. Yeah, I think she seemed like she was really like in the right mindset too coming on the show. And from her time on Survivor, I definitely think she's a very good fit. So I think she can come back on and maybe have like a Jenny Total Madness season where she comes back on and is just the best competitor and wins.
Yeah, she seemed to be. I like that she was with Wes, Rank, that they kind of seemed like they had the same strategy. It's just Wes has so much baggage.
Yeah, that was such a great pairing. And I think that if Wes could have survived a little bit longer, and of course, Natalie, through the unfortunate circumstances, ended her time on the show, I thought that was a good pair. And I hope that in the future, if there was something similar to this, that they would both get an opportunity to work together. I don't know what Wes is. I mean, I guess it is the baggage, but there was something about him that even with the baggage, there was just something about him. He was so defeated so early on that it just wasn't going to work out for him. It was too much work. And I think that one of the great things working with Johnny Bananas the previous season was that it gave him a little bit of a renewed interest. Like it was something new for him. And it was something, and obviously Johnny's going to take a little bit of the heat as well, but it gave him a little bit more focus. And I was hoping that would happen with Natalie if Natalie started winning a number of competitions and everything, like, oh, that could have spurred them on to bigger things. So I hopefully with both of them, we'll see them back in the near future.
All right. Well,
I think with him, part of what happened was, so he came on the season and he had I think he really thought he had a lockdown on everybody, but I just don't think he had good enough relationships with everybody. Like he had a decent one, but not a good enough one. And then it's just really easy narrative for a camp to push across, hey, let's get the champions out so we can get CT, Ashley, and Wes out of here, and then we're not going to have to deal with them.
All right, well, let's make some predictions for who we think is going to win. I'm going to say that Cam wins with CT. When CT finally wins an elimination, makes up for the mistake of episode 1. I think that's why they emphasize that so much. Ends up with Cam, so CT and Cam are my pick. Rob.
Wanted to go CT and Cam too. That's the kind of train I was on.
Well,
if you already picked them, I'll go Darrell and Amber B.
Darrell and Amber. So you think that they end up staying together this entire time?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen pretty much where people have been pretty reticent to switch. That I think they could stick together, and I think Darrell is by far the best guy in a final out of this cast.
Rank?
No, I like Darrell too, and I think that he switches partners somehow, and he gets either with Cam or Casey, and one of those two, because I think that he still has the momentum. Because as much as I like Fessy, there's still something about Fessy that I feel like, again, I'm going back to his technique in Hall Brawl, and last year he was in the finals and didn't do as well, and I think that he's a big bruiser. But I think Darrell is the guy who ends up, of the guys who are still remaining, I think he has everything. I think he has everything to go out there and be successful. I think Kyle is kind of a dark horse too. I think he's sneaky good at a number of things, that as much as he likes to play up being the liar and everything like that, I think he's like a sleeper type of person that if you needed it, if I needed a long shot, I would probably look at him. But I love Darrell a lot, and I think that he eventually has to switch partners. I don't know if he ends up with Cam or if he ends up with Casey, but I think one of those two girls ends up being part of a winning team. So I'll say Casey just to keep it different.
I like that Darrell, according to you, is the Lex Luger of the challenge. He's the total package. So
the total package. Yeah. He is. I wasn't, I didn't know what to expect when he came back and what we were going to see out of him. But again, what your guys are saying about CT, and maybe you probably are right. There's a reason I should have stuck with Cam, or I should have picked Cam or something like that. I still think that Darrell, I think he's what you guys think CT's doing. I think he's doing a better version of it. So I would pick him.
Yeah. I think that people identify Darrell as too much of a threat. It doesn't feel like they're sweating CT at all. Maybe Corey will end up winning. He'll lose every partner he has this year and just win the challenge finally.
Yeah, I think veteran savvy goes a long way in a final. So that's why I lean more towards Darrell or CT. We saw Johnny winning last season. And even World of the Worlds 1, which was super running heavy. Wes is still able to keep up with Theo and Turbo just because he knows how to, manipulate things into his favor. So I lean much more towards Darrell or CT on the guys. I could see Leroy pulling it out too if he ends up in the right situation in the final. He's the third sort of guy on the totem pole there. But I would lean towards Darrell or CT as the winner pick.
Leroy's a great, that's a great call, because when he went out there and won his Red Skull, I thought that situation worked out well for Jay. I'm like, oh my God, why would you want to go up against Jay in this? He's a rock climber. He's going to excel at this, but Leroy was just utterly unbelievable. And I know, Pat, you and I talked about it a little bit the day after it happened. And I'm like, I've never seen anything like that. In quite some time. It's been a while since I've been that shocked and how great he was. They couldn't even edit, even the supposed oh my God, is this where he slips up? You're like, there's no way. He's so far ahead. So I think we're kind of, I know I'm guilty of underestimating Leroy here.
Well,
was that producer manipulation?
What do you mean?
Because Leroy's done that elimination before and absolutely torched it. He did it to the level where doesn't seem like there's many people on the earth that could beat him in it. And then he gets up there. I don't think at that point they'd repeated any eliminations. And he's talking about throwing himself in. The guy in the elimination was the guy he had a rivalry with. And they're like, look, let's give Leroy's done his time. Let's give him something we think he can knock out of the park.
I think
that's right. Oh, man. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I could see that.
Your memory is going on you, right? Yeah, he dominated Bananas. Well, I mean, Bananas he didn't even get a chance to go in that one. Leroy finished it so quickly. But I would say that after
That's right. I'm an old man. Like I'm losing my mind. I forgot. But I don't know. Maybe it was just because I thought that I'm like, oh, Jay's got this.
See, I'm on the same page as you. I think besides Leroy and probably like Darrell, that Jay's probably the favorite in that elimination in particular over everyone else who was left.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, Fessy on the Challenge Aftermath show said he thinks Jay and Leroy would have just beaten everybody else on that. So.
I mean, Nam is so strong that Nam may have been able to do it. I don't know.
You've got
a little bit bigger than you'd like.
I mean, the way he was able to hold himself up in that trivia challenge for so long, like he was just so strong.
That's true. That's a good point. I forgot. Well, by the way, why didn't they? Like, this is the thing. Like, sometimes I need reminders. Like, hey, it's still the middle. Like, when that happened, the football season wasn't quite over. So forgive me for not remembering that. But like, they should play into more of that. Like, maybe because like that kind of plays into like producer manipulation. Like if they would pull out old footage like, oh, Leroy's dominated this before, then I think people at home would be like, well, then obviously you're setting this up for him because he's winning and he's throwing himself in. So I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. And I think that they probably did set it up that way. And I think they're also giving Jay a sporting chance because it is something that he's good at. Like it's okay. And do you wonder, like, do they do that with Hall Brawl too, where they knew like Fessy was going to volunteer himself to go in? Like, all right, let's do Hall Brawl. Let's see what he's got. And then have poor Nelson eliminated by the same challenge 2 years in a row.
Love Nelson too. We had a stretch where it was like Wes, Nelson, Ashley, and Tori got eliminated like 4 in a row. And I'm like, look, we're just losing like all of my favorite people like within a 4-week stretch here. I would really like to see them go back to, they did this on the second battle of the seasons where the Wayne team could pick the elimination. I think particularly now with the Red Skull twist, it'd be a good idea if for winning the mission, which is a really good accomplishment, that you not only can you choose to go in or choose who goes in instead of you, you can also pick what the elimination is. I'd like to see them go back to that.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of twist to make the dailies more important. Like last place should get you automatically in. Like don't perform poorly in the dailies, and you can go in. Maybe the winners get to pick what the challenges and see what the secret votes are. I don't know what it is. There's a tweak that needs to be made somewhere, but we are out of time. As Adam Rank is a busy man. He has to go. Rob McIntyre, you can listen to on the Challenge Chronicles recap podcast. You can find that on the Mayo Media Network. Please subscribe. Adam Rank, if you have a TV, you can watch him on NFL Network. If you have the internet, you can also watch him up there as well. Thank you both for coming on. This was the Pat Mayo Experience. Smash a like. Give me your favorite OG who's not on the OG season in the comment section. Subscribe to the podcast. Smash a like. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience.
You're gonna have to pop it off your neck. Just rip it off your neck right now. Just rip it.
It's 18 inches wide, Paul. This is not gonna come off my neck. I can't rip it. It's like metal.
You just gotta tuck your chin. Tuck your chin. Move it
Oh
out.
my God, you're gonna strangle me.
Come on.
This is not gonna. I'm telling you, this is not gonna work. Well, is there like a
chain gang for life now? I guess.
Oh my God, this can't be the case. I'm supposed to have like an actual job interviews over camera. I don't think they're gonna appreciate this unless I'm applying to be a bouncer. What would you use to break it off?
Wire cutters.
Oh my God, I don't know if we have wire cutters.
This is a very tough
I don't know what to do.
of you.
This is not the case.
This feels like something Tim would struggle with.
Well, but it broke off. What am I supposed to do?
Here, show the camera.
What do I mean? Like the little thing that you're supposed to hit here? It's not there anymore.
Oh, you lost the little nub.
It popped off, I guess.
Just muscle it.
Oh my God, I'm gonna break. Oh my, I got it.
Did you break it?
It's
off.
I don't know. Yeah, I broke it.
Experience.